Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King guys. And I'm here with something brand new for you guys to enjoy. First of all, I'm not gonna be continuing What If Naruto Was Rimuru Tempest guys. I can see that that one is not favorable by most, so I'm gonna be giving you guys something new to take its place. What if Naruto was resurrected by his followers? I got this idea some time back, so here it is for you guys to enjoy. And if you want your what if to be done by me, don't forget to comment your ideas down in the description or in the community tab on the what if posts, and I'll be jotting it down to do your ideas later. So yeah, if you're new, I indeed have 3 more channels as well. I'll link all of them down in the description. So without further ado or wasting more time, how about we begin this now guys? We begin this episode with chaos. There was so much death and destruction. The land was bathed with the blood of many. Thousands have lost their life today, courtesy of a group of people that was able to slay thousands, not just from one but from all villages in the current elemental nation. The battlefield was bloody and a mess. However, it wasn't over just yet. A man, his face shadowed by most of the blood that stained him, his long red hair waving and whipping around as he shouted to his enemies. "This will not hold me forever," he screamed out, the malice and hatred in his tone. "I will be free, and all who oppose my way of living will cease to exist." As he shouted and screamed, powerful, incredibly powerful Fuinjutsu dug into his very essence. Because they could not kill him, he has reached a state of deathless. However, given the amount of people that were currently aiding in this sealing, it is to show that this was no ordinary person. On the battlefield was Hoshirama Senju, the first Hokage of Konoha. Nearby was Madara Uchiha, the leader of the Uchiha clan. Nearby was also Miu, the second Tishikage of the Hidden Stone village. There was also 2 Raikages on the battlefield, the corpse of one and the newly instated one. The Kazekage was there as well. Every single shinobi that was aiding in this sealing was a high Kage level, not to mention all the Uzumakis. A large gathering of Uzumakis that were coming together using the Fuinjutsu. In that moment, they finally put a stop to the greatest threat that almost brought the elemental nation down to its knees. This was the only way they could stop him, by splitting his power, diverting it from ever to be brought back together again, to lock and seal it away for the rest of eternity. It took so many of them, and the chance of them winning again with their numbers so drastically decreased was impossible. Yes, it was. This happened a long time ago, where our current story now resides. A young boy, a happy smile on his face. His name was Naruto Uzumaki, branded with a headband on his forehead. He was a ninja of the Hidden Leaf village. Having left the house to practice the tree walking exercise on his own, given that he really sucked at controlling his chakra. He wanted to prove them all wrong by doing it on his own. Mere seconds ago, he met someone. His name was Haku. He was a bit embarrassed because he thought it was a girl at first, but it was actually a guy. Despite that though, that guy was somehow prettier than Sakura. It was really weird, he thought to himself. His thoughts were interrupted when someone hit him with something as he looked up, glaring at none other than his rival, Sasuke Uchiha. Despite it not looking like it, the both of them has been locked in a competition for a long time now. Naruto goal to show Sasuke up and surpass him. While Sasuke might not care or show that he cared that much, he did show that he was constantly bickering with Naruto and trying to prove that him being a Uchiha made him at least 1,000 times better than the blonde dumbass. As the Uchiha questioned him, missing breakfast. He's been missing for the past few hours now. Well, missing wasn't the correct word. As Naruto got up, I have yet to complete the exercise. And I bet that you haven't either, said Naruto. So, it's time to get back to work. Despite his cool attitude, Sasuke wanted to complete it as well, because Sakura was able to do it. But that was because of her low chakra reserves, which he could control pretty easily. As both boys work for the next couple of hours. Finally, when their sensei came out, Naruto was high up in the tree. "What are you doing up there?" Sakura said, chastising him, knowing that if he fall, it would be really bad. That is when he slipped and fell. However, he caught himself just in time, with a big goofy grin on his face. However, the next day was quite a hustle, as it was the first time that Naruto ever truly tapped into the power of the beast that was lurking inside of him. That is where things truly started to heat up. While Naruto was losing control to kill Haku for what he did to Sasuke, Sasuke jumped in the way to take the needles, saving Naruto's life. Someone was watching, standing a far distance away. The fact that they could see what was going on was truly baffling, because they did not seem to be a Hyuga. However, whoever this person was, they were rather unique just from the ecstatic about them. It was a girl. She had a striking figure, downright breathtaking. However, she had this cold look on her face that would warn or make someone second guess approaching her despite of her exotic looks. She has waist length, crimson hair with streaks of black flowing down. It was like living tendrils when she moved. Her eyes were unique and also odd, but they were also interestingly captivating. They were a haunted mix of deep scarlet with golden pupils that seemed to gleam ominously because she was standing under the shade of the tree. Her pale skin contrasted with her dark blood-red hair, and not to mention her dark and black attire. It was a flowing robe with intricate black sealing symbols, with clothing underneath to fit for a lot of mobility. Her hands were covered in markings. They were tattoos of strange spiraling markings. They were sealing symbols. And on her forehead was a spiral marking that seemed to radiate this ominous feeling. As she stood there, a smile graced her features, making her look even more dangerous. As the demonic chakra within Naruto raged, she watched him from afar. She seemed so happy. Finally, she uttered the words. She did not intervene though. She simply waited. As much as she wanted to, she did not. She simply watched as things play out in front of her. As the time went by, things ended with Team 7 being the heroes of the Land of Wave. This young woman followed them all the way back to the Hidden Leaf Village. She bypassed Konoha's security like that. Like it meant nothing to her. Getting in and out was nothing because she's been here before a lot of times. She went straight to Naruto's home. She entered before he did. When Naruto returned that day, he felt a bit sad about Haku's death. Yes, he did. Never wanting that to happen, but it also gave him a perspective that he never had before. His goal to get stronger to protect those who are precious to him was greater than ever before. Upon stepping inside though, Naruto felt something strange. The place felt so cold. He supposed that wasn't a new thing. After all, he lived alone. All of the little emotions that were in his eyes faded away. He didn't like to think about being alone most times, but it was his reality, and it was something that he had to accept. However, someone rested hands on his shoulders. Before he could scream, she covered his mouth. As a sensation, the scream just overwhelmed him because she frightened the hell out of him. Almost forgetting that he was a ninja, he slapped away her hands and jumped to the bed. Weapon already raising as he stopped in front of the door. However, she smiled. But given her eyes in the darkness, she freaked the living hell out of Naruto as he started back away. What are you? Some kind of demon? He said, trying to escape as he looked towards all point of exits. Her not talking scared him even more as he moved towards the window. However, in the blink of an eye, she appeared in front of him as she hit him once in the stomach, twice in the chest, before she placed 2 fingers on his forehead. As Naruto passed out, he simply collapsed, unconscious on the ground. She looked down towards him with a smile. Before she looked down, "Do not worry, my lord," she said. "Soon, everything will be back to normal." With that, she proceeded to go through hand signs. She rested her hand on Naruto's chest when she was done. That is when her chakra became visible and it molded a perfect copy of Naruto right there and then. Whatever this jutsu was, it was far more advanced than any other. The way it took in intricate markings on his clothing. This wasn't your standard Shadow Clone Jutsu or Clone Jutsu. Given the fact that she touched it, given the fact that the person that she was holding was actually sleeping, how could she simulate him sleeping despite the original unconscious? And a clone should not form with a disturbance with the original and his chakra. With that, she made her way towards the wall. She pulled something out from behind her, as there was a strange artifact in her palm glowing. She raised it to the wall. It was a tag. However, the seal inscribed on it was red and glowing. The next moment, Naruto's wall that led to the outside caved in and opened up, revealing something completely different. She picked Naruto up and headed inside. The moment they arrived, there was snow. Yes, snow all around, as they were currently within the land of snow. She moved off at such speed that it seems like she teleported. It did not take too long for her to arrive, as there were 2 men that opened the door. They were snow ninjas. They immediately stepped aside, showing someone that was sitting on a makeshift throne. A man was sitting there. His name was Doto Kazahana. Dark hair, a very robust, serious face. He looked down towards her. "You're back. I take it that it's finally time," Doto said to her. The girl nodded her head and presented Naruto. "This is him." Hard to believe that a little brat could be the history I was told. I understand your skepticism, but I would advise you to watch your tone when you're speaking about my master. Otherwise, I will have to remove that tongue of yours. "Easy, easy," Doto said, raising his hand. I didn't mean it like that, I was just surprised. Given the past couple of years that he knew this woman, he knew that her threats were not something to be taken as threats, because they were mere statements that she made. This woman was a straight-on psychopath, willing to massacre and brutalize anyone that stopped her from getting what she desired. She was still looking at him with those menacing eyes as Doto got off his throne. "Alright now, Kyoka," he said. "I think we should move on to the next step." The now identified Kyoka turned her gaze back to the young boy. "I still don't understand why you didn't do this a long time ago if you had the power to do as you please." "I did try," she said. "However, certain circumstances prevent me from actually doing anything." Her gaze was focused towards Naruto's stomach. It was a nine-tailed fox ceiling. There was a reason why she got Naruto out of Konoha so easily. A reason why she got in so easily. She's been watching Naruto since he was a child. Yes, she's been watching him for all these years now, and yet she seemed to be in her early 20s. 21, 22, maybe even 20 flat. And this was not the first time that she kidnapped Naruto. This was actually the third time. However, all of the other attempts end in failure. However, now that his body was finally stimulated by the power of the fox, now that the seal had been weakening, she can finally begin the process. That damn accursed seal on his stomach prevent any tampering with anything regarding a soul fragment. As people saw the Nine Tails as just a mass of chakra, it really was not. And that damn Death Reaper seal has prevented her from completing her goal for the past couple of years. But now that it's been weakened, it's finally time. She was finally granted the opportunity. She just needed a tiny little crack, a tiny bit that would allow her to tamper with the connection that she wanted to make. So with that said, she carried Naruto off, Doto following behind her, knowing that this being successful would gain him a lot. He was willing to sacrifice a lot for it as well, knowing that he will be on the forefront of this new world that they were creating. And finally, he would have the power to make the other nations bow, other than trying to get the lost key from that stupid little girl. But that was important right now. It was finally time, he thought to himself, as they made their way, arriving inside of a room. Upon arriving in there, the place looked like, well, it was scary. There was no doubt about that. Doto hated to come in here. There were strange markings, pentagram, and all sorts of markings that seemed to deal with something supernatural, something unholy. However, it was a trait that these people dabble in. She requested two of his ninjas be here for aiding in support. He grabbed two that wasn't important to anything, just in case things were to turn bad and they got injured or something. However, she reassured him that her process would be swift and quick. He did not think much of it, too focused on what he will get in the long run. However, his eyes couldn't help but wander downwards. Kyoka was a very dangerous woman, but she was also a very incredibly attractive woman. And walking behind her was a sight to see. And Doto gazed downwards until he felt the hair on the back of his neck stand up, almost like she knew. He simply averted his gaze. Kyoka placed Naruto in the center of the strange Fuinjutsu marker that was on the ground. Nothing he's ever seen before, as she asked the other two to supply the areas in front of her with chakra. Feeling like they were being used for a good purpose, their lord asked him for their help. They gave that they could. However, when Kyoka got behind them, she believed they were going to do the same, until she slit the both of their throats. While they were in the process of putting their chakra in the seal, Doto's eyes went wide as blood splashed. What the hell are you doing? He cursed at the woman. He too was willing to sacrifice his man for the greater good. However, they were his, not hers to do something like this. Kyoka looked up towards him. I told you I needed to. You said it would be quick and swift. For my lord, not for them. Their lifeblood is what needed to bring my lord back. He was incredibly angry, but as she rose to her feet, I have promised you greatness for your cooperation here. Fight against me now and I will simply kill you and go through with the process. And you will get nothing in your grave. 2 souls will not tempt the wealth and victories that you will get in the coming future. He bit back his anger as he saw the blood on the ground, circulating with their chakra. The blood flew into the seal, activating it. It's time, she said. She slit her own hand open and there was no blood. Chakra flew from her hand like some kind of fountain. What the hell? Doto said. Despite knowing this woman for a long time now, he didn't actually know that much about her. Kyoka proceeded to kneel down as she went through 352 hand signs. Doto watched the entire process take place before she slammed her hand on the 2 bodies, not the ground. Their bodies seemed to move and turn like they were possessed. The both of them got to their feet despite being dead. What the hell? Doto said, actually second thinking the ramifications of what he got himself caught up with. The next moment though, their bodies slammed into the ceiling where the true Fuinjutsu marker was, something that Kyoka had forged. Their bones and skin, everything, it seemed to eviscerate. It simply merged into the seal, activating it. What the hell was that? He questioned, but he got no response. That is when a powerful light came down from the seal and flooded into Naruto. His body squirmed as he grit his teeth, his eyes still remaining closed as he tear his hand in the ground, tearing through actual solid stone. That is when it stopped. Kyoka stood there, watching carefully, patiently waiting. Toto wanted to say something but he refrained from doing so, remaining silent as well, wondering what the hell that was and what happened. All of the things that she's told him, he never expected that it would be anything like this. That is when Naruto's right finger twitched, and suddenly his hand moved. Immediately Kyoka ran around as she knelt. She looked towards Doto and gave him a look. Despite not wanting to do so, he immediately dropped to his knees. What the hell is this? He said, taking deep breaths. That is when his 3 strongest arrived. All of them rushed towards, aiming to fight for their lord. The leader of this group, Neri, stood there, as there were 2 others behind him. Doto looked towards them, trembling. Kneel. Now, he said, feeling like if it is not done, they will all die. The overwhelming sensation felt like it was gritting into his very flesh. Kyoka, on the other hand, had a big smile on her face. The tattoos on her arms were glowing. Her eyes were glistening as Naruto got to his feet and opened his eyes. Everything looked the same about him, which was odd given that whole ordeal. However, his presence was different. He looked at himself as he grabbed his head. He then turned to face all that bowed in front of him. The sheer presence that came off of him was still engraved in the depths of what his power once was. When it truly lashed onto those in front of him, they felt it. The only one that wasn't affected by this was Kyoka. Naruto stepped towards her. He reached his hand out, holding her by the chin and lifting her face. "Kyoka," he said, as she looked up towards him with a smile. However, the next moment, Kyoka was sent through the wall, and the other, and the other, and the other before she crashed outside in the snow. Naruto looked down towards his hand that was broken in several different places. He looked at his hand trying to move it, feeling pain. "Now this is a problem," he said. Doto and the others were confused as Kyoka came back, blood now dripping from her head. However, the wound healed immediately. She wiped her face and knelt. "Explain why it took this long." She bowed her head. "My apologies, my lord," she said. "Unfortunately, your revival process took longer than expected because your host was a Jinjuliki. In order to link your soul fragment back to yourself, I had to wait until there was a weakening in the seal. If I did not, your soul would have been trapped inside the cage with the nine-tailed fox. The seal that is placed on you is the one that is tied back to the Death Reaper seal. Then why didn't you just remove the Death Reaper seal completely? I'm sure the revival process would have stopped any feelings of death regarding with my now physical form the moment you transmitted that fragment of my soul back into myself. Yes, I know, but I figured that you would desire to have the most powerful of the current tail beasts under your possession to help you regain your past power. It is not your place to guess what I desire. It is your place to simply have brought me back. However, I can't stay mad at you," he said. He stepped towards her and caressed her cheek, as she seemed so happy. "You may rise," he said. Kyoka got to her feet. "Now, my arm," said Naruto. "I strengthened my blow when I hit you a moment ago and it shattered my arm in several places. Unfortunately, with the majority of your power that has been taken, going past your natural limit, your body is not powerful as it once was. However, the mere fact that you were able to strike me so hard on your revival is something your former self couldn't have done, which means you have 100% control. Well, it's not a problem. After all, I am Naruto Uzumaki as well. Granted, that wasn't my name before. However, I like this one. Maelstrom, I suppose." What's going on?" Doto said, finally voicing, as Naruto turned to face him. "Who are these?" he said. "People I've gathered along the way. This man here is in control of one of the wealthiest countries within the elemental nation, not to mention the currently greatest technologically advanced, which contribute to that wealth." "Ah, I see. You did well in my absence. I'm proud of you." The smile on her face was radiant, as she seemed so happy. "Well, Mr. Naruto looked towards him. Doto. Well, Mr. Doto. Weird name, by the way. I like to tell my story. How about you have a seat?" Doto was confused, but he was curious as well, as Naruto walked over and sat down. "You see, many years ago, I was hailed as the strongest being on this planet. Before that, I was a Uzumaki that was obsessed with power. That is what they say. It was my goal to break the natural limitation that one possesses. However, in my conquest, I came across something much more powerful. Something that you would only see in your nightmares. I used that to make myself what I was when I challenged the world." "Yes, I know quite a lot about that," Doto said. "The history is rather great." "Ah, wonderful," said Naruto. I'm glad that my name is still kept in the records. I suppose they couldn't have wiped me from history, given all I did. But you were defeated, Doto said. Yes, a shame, Naruto said, looking at his hand. That was no already fully healed because of his doing, with the power inside of him. I was defeated, but before I fell, I placed a fragment of my soul in all of the Uzumakis around, the Kunoichis of course, knowing that their creation of a new spawn would lead to my recovery. This body, doesn't know anything about the Uzumakis telling me what happened. Unfortunately, my lord, they were all destroyed, Kyoka said. Naruto started to laugh, finding it rather amusing. Just as I warned them. But did they take my warning? No. Explain, Naruto said. It's the reason why your revival took as long as it shouldn't have. All the Uzumakis that had a soul fragment that you once had, they were killed. There was only a few survive. And the only one that was able to generate that piece of your soul gave birth to a child. A child that was not you. Now how is that possible? I believe it's because of the special chakra that said child possessed. It was able to isolate and overcome your soul fragment. But my other theory is your soul fragment bonded with this one even more because it knew it would birth something more powerful. The body that you're currently residing in. It too possessed this same chakra. It just needs to be unlocked. Similar to his mother. Her name was Kushina Uzumaki. Wait, said Doto. So, you created yourself, knowing that you were going to die. Exactly. I bonded my soul to someone. My soul had fragments of my entire being that gave it the potential along with the Uzumaki woman to birth a child. And the moment my soul fragment reunite with that body, I would be reborn, as you can see now. However, my power has been severely depleted. They split it, didn't they? Said Naruto. Yes, my lord. As she dropped back to her knees. I'm sorry I wasn't powerful enough to find the locations. I failed you. Don't be a downer on yourself, Naruto said. Despite the fact that he just hit her through the goddamn building, I will be able to find my fragment of power that they've split and hid all over the world. The Uzumakis were a crafty little bunch. There's no doubt in my mind that traps and side effects of breaking through these traps will be set to stop anyone from waking up what belongs to me. After all, there is nothing in this world that can truly destroy me. What about my other creations, said Naruto. They've all been sealed away as well, my lord, given that their essence are linked to you. And you cannot be killed, so they weren't able to kill you. Well, that sounds right, said Naruto. I suppose now, it's just a matter of time for me to regain the power that I've lost. And once I do, the smile that came on Naruto's face, the aura that leaked from him, had the people backing away, except for one, his faithful and loyal servant, Kyoka, who seemed so happy to be within her master's bliss once more. Time skip. Kyoka was walking alongside Naruto as Naruto's arm was now fully healed. Doto was pretty upset because they were talking like his help in the matter did not bring much. Yes, like he did not offer her aid and help her to awaken her so-called master. Kyoka hadn't even looked towards him like he was just a pawn to be used. He couldn't believe that he actually bowed to that child. And now that Naruto was suppressing himself, that evil sensation that came from his soul, Doto was pretty pissed. Hey! Wait, he said, raising his tone. His people were there. I was promised power and control for my contribution in this. I was a big part of your so-called revival. And you two speak like I'm not involved. I deserve some respect, he said, the anger, as he looked towards the both of them. Naruto turned to the wall before looking at himself. Are you talking to me? Of course I am. Who else would I be talking to? Naruto started to laugh. His laughter upset Naruto even more as he looked towards his people. You think this is a joke? You two are speaking and pretending like my involvement meant nothing, and yet I deserve to be rewarded for the sacrifice that I've taken. Not to mention her killing two of my own. The moment she said that, the other guards raised their weapon, and Naruto did not tell them to put it away. Who is this man? Naruto said as he was speaking to Kyoka. He was a common person before, rich because of his brother that he killed and took his empire. I came to him and promised him a lot, knowing that he would be delighted to get wealth and control and power at your reawakening. He controlled a lot, not to mention his team. They're highly advanced in technological wise, more than was around in our time. They even have a train. A train? What's that? A transportation vehicle that could get weak people from one place to another without much hassle, Kyoka said. Ah, interesting, said Naruto. I suppose his contribution should be noted for what he's done. However, that tone is not something that I too like. As Naruto turned towards Naruto, I must say, I've been belittling your service that you've put up so far to help my revival, and I've been quite disrespectful. Yes, you have, Naruto said, and that is why I'll only make her kill 5 for your disrespect. What? Not those 3. They seem important, said Naruto. Wait, what? Kyoka. The moment Naruto said her name, Kyoka descended upon them like death itself. The tattoos on her arms, they started to move before they shifted, and blades emerged, causing the tattoos to vanish. The ones on her lower arms, that is. The blades were small. However, when she threw it through someone's skull, before burying another one through someone's heart, before ripping out someone's spine when she carved into another's back, showing the strength that she possessed. In a few seconds, 25 to be quite exact, she eliminated 5 in a very gruesome way. The others stepped back as Kyoka placed her blades away. As she held her hand out, manipulating water, she used it to wash her hands as she came back over. You've gotten faster, said Naruto. I've been doing a lot in the past couple of years, my lord, she said, talking like she didn't just massacre 5 people. Naruto people wanted to do something, but they were afraid. Even Nidori and the others behind him, looking towards him to make a move. Know that is settled, said Naruto. Don't do anything stupid, otherwise I'll have her wipe out half of your population and use the other half as collateral for anything that you might do. I'm over the disrespect, so there's nothing to worry about now. But don't you worry, as long as you're a productive member of what I choose to create, you will be rewarded for your contribution. You will have money, power beyond your wildest imagination. Most of those things do not gather my fancy. I'm after something much larger, so you will gain these that you want. Trivial things, I suppose, for mere humans like you. Naruto spoke like he wasn't a human. Well, it was complicated. He started to walk, Kyoka walking beside him. By the way, Naruto, I suggest you keep your mouth shut about my revival. I'm going to have to be an actor for some time. There's a few things that I want to do. I have the memories of this body. Well, I suppose you don't care about that, so there's no reason to tell you what I'm going to do. However, make sure you keep your mouth shut and not spill any information that you hear here today. The only reason why I told you anything is because I simply wanted the audience to tell my story. So, I will be on my way now. I will be in contact, said Naruto, and with that, him and Kyoka left, leaving Doto there. The people wanted to know if they should pursue or make a move, but he told them no. He stopped them. He angered that girl before, and she ripped through his chakra armor with her bare hands. She used force to rip through his armor. Her hands had changed into something that wasn't skin. So he knew that they could not win. His anger got the better of him, which cost him 5 of his men. He knew if they were to go to war with them, countless will die and his empire would be in shambles. He swallowed his pride and his rage as he decided to do the smart thing instead of the stupid thing. He cursed in the very day that he met that girl, that she seduced her way in here. Damn it, he cursed out loud. Meanwhile, as Naruto and Kyoka was making their way, he thought about his life. His past name was Satoru Uzumaki. Yes, Satoru was a young boy that was born in the early days of the Uzumaki clan. In the days of bloodshed, chaos, and war, Satoru had saw many death and destruction in front of his eyes. He lost friends, he lost family, he lost a lot. And he refused to have lost anyone else. Most people of his clan, most of the warriors were known as ruthless to many because of their fighting ways. And most Uzumakis did not show mercy. However, Satoru was the worst amongst worst. It got to a point that his own clan started to fear him with the things that he started to do. Experiments. Twisted, wicked experiments on the enemy. Yes, that was not exactly something that was bad, given that he was trying to prolong his, research. However, he started to get out of control. Satoru wanted more power. He needed more power. He thirsted for more power. Given the fact that he was a born prodigy, that seemed to have limitless amount of growth inside of him. On the day that he finally reached a stumbling point that he could not pass, it drove him mad. He hungered and thirsted for more power until he found something ancient, something in the Uzumaki clan that those who thought it was best to be left alone buried it. The mass. There were several masks in a Uzumaki temple that were used for several different reasons. Most of them dealt with something, dark. There was a past Uzumaki, a man known as Satoru. Satoru was he was a pacifist in a way, as he did not desire war or chaos, but Satoru thirst for knowledge. So he was the one that first started the mingles with these masks, these reapers, these things. When Satoru came across his work, he desired to know everything about it, but he dived a bit too deep. The more he dived, the more corrupted he got, the more power hungry he became. Satoru believed that the world was broken. There was no fixing this, there was just problems all around. The only way to truly fix it was to make every single nation bow under one, and Satoru would rule it. But he wasn't about to stop there. He would transcend himself and the people around him into a new age, an era that they never believed was possible. But many fought his dreams. Those that stood by his side, those that tried to help him, were the first to die. They were those that were tired of the bloodshed and chaos around them. And the ones who killed them were actually members of the Uzumaki clan, because they wanted to stop him. The original leader at the time gave the order to put Satoru down because he kidnapped a fellow Uzumaki. He had no intention of hurting the woman, simply to start something, simply to do something that he believed would be successful because of her blood. Her chakra was special, but they hunted him down. So he fled, and those that tried to fight alongside him died. It was on that day that he promised that he would never get close to anyone ever again. Everything that he need he would create, and thus he created a group. Looking over, his main companion at the moment was the youngest of that group. She wasn't a robot, she wasn't an android or anything like that. She was actually alive. She had a soul. Now that drives Satoru in a different way. It made him believe that he was a god. After all, what other being could form a soul? Something like that couldn't be possible, right? However, Satoru broke the natural order of how things were. He dived deep within the remnants of death and life, and he came out with things and knowledge that shocked the world. And he created her. He made her. She was a living being. She had a soul, an existence, while her body was extremely modified in many thousands of different ways. She was alive. She could think. She could understand. He was a god. There was nothing denying that. He was a being above these mortals. He was a spectral. He broke past boundaries that he shouldn't have never dived in. He sold his very existence to understand. He dived within deep in the arts of darkness that most wouldn't even begin to understand. The group that he created consists of 10. Him making number 11. And she was the youngest amongst them. Their power was vast, however. Because of his goals to bring everything down and rebuild it in his image, the whole world went up against him. He became so much of a threat. They put aside their differences, they put aside their chaos, they put aside their bloodshed in order to join forces to stop him, because they knew if he got his way, life as they knew it would stop and a new would be created. So they came together to put an end to him. He called them the Chosen 10. He fought the entire world with the 10 at his side. He went up against the entire world. Every able-bodied ninja. He slaughtered thousands along with his Chosen 10. However, some of them were killed as well. Unlike his beastly creations, the Chosen 10 were not linked to him in that way. Their life was not linked to him in that way. While they might share certain aspect of powers, their life was a different thing entirely. Because to make them their own people, they had to separate from him. And their loyalty had to come from their creation, which it did. So a lot of them were wiped out, facing off against entire nations. She was the only one that remained. However, Satoru was always making steps above steps above steps. And thus he placed a piece of his soul in each and every Uzumaki that was on the battlefield. All Kunoichis, to ensure that his revival will be set. And all of his Chosen 10 were given the same mission on their mind. To revive him, how to do the process and everything. However, the only one that survived that ordeal was her. She escaped, knowing that she had to run, flee. Because if she did not, her master would never come back, so she ran away. Which stopped her from finding out where his power went. Because Satoru had transcended the normal aspects of death, they could not kill him. The only thing they could do was seal him. To this day, no one really knew the depths or understanding of his powers, or how he became so truly strong. They knew that he dived in the arts of death and corruption, given the abilities that he used that were so abnormal. However, they couldn't truly understood them. So yes, all of the Uzumakis, they used their power together to seal him piece by piece, constructing a seal so powerful that not even his essence could break out of it without extra step. However, now that he was freed, his mind retaining as it was, proving that he was a prodigy and a genius, that seal could never work on him ever again. However, this time he was going to make sure that nothing in this world could seal him. He had to say, he got cocky. Breathing life into something and creating anew made him cocky and overconfident. And he believed that he was untouchable, that he was a god. However, he wasn't. And that was the only reason why he got sealed away. Because of his own arrogance, downplaying his own strength to prove how superior he truly was against the entire world. But now things are different. As he looked at his hands, this body was weak. The only reason why he was able to come back was because he placed his soul fragment in the other Uzumakis. However, he knew that they were also adept in sealing art, so he had to make sure that they would never find it. He couldn't place his soul fragment whole inside of them, because if he did that, his consciousness would try to take over, which will lead to someone finding out. So the piece of his soul that he placed inside of them was simply tied to his essence to recreate him. However, he was surprised that it did not form him the first time. Instead, it went into this cushioner that Kyuka was telling him about. As for the real depths of his soul, he had bind it to the elemental nation using spiritual fuinjutsu, and the only way to truly revive him was to break that boundary of spiritual and physical by sacrificing two souls, having their lifeblood merge with their chakra, and so he was brought back. However, this body was at least 1,000 times weaker than what he originally were, and he had no idea what the Uzumakis did. They could not fully destroy him. He transcended the normal aspect of death, so they couldn't destroy him. Instead, they seal him away. They cast his physical form into space beyond these, breaking through space that they couldn't even explore. They send his body away beyond this dimension so that he could never be found ever again. However, they could not simply send his power away, because there was a chance that his power could resurface or come together and merge once again if they let it somewhere that they could not keep tabs on. They had to keep it somewhere where the seal would never be broken, somewhere that was eternal, everlasting, just like him. He could tell that his power still resided on the elemental nation. He could feel it. The problem was, he could not find any link at all because of the sealing that they used, but he could tell that his power was still here. "Have you found any leads on where they distributed my power?" said Naruto, looking towards her. "My apologies, but the best I was able to gather over the past couple of years is that each of the great nations has some sort of link to the power that you once held. I believe they divided somehow and sealed it away, the Uzumakis being the ones that did it. However, I don't believe that any of them were able to truly understand it or control it. I would have known and felt your power in the time, but there has been no sign or glimpse that anyone has been able to do anything regarding requiring the power that you left behind. I doubt they would. Besides, I'm sure that the Uzumakis went through lengths after lengths after lengths to ensure that the seals would never be broken. Given their vast knowledge, as all of them combined their capacity, they would have ensured that no one would be able to break through it. And in the end, what did that get them? Their own destruction by the hands of the people that they fought with. I told them, and what did they say? They decided to step against me, saying that I was a threat, when they had no idea that their destruction was outside, simply waiting for them. However, that is their loss. What is important now is returning me back to what I once was. When they got back to the village, she looked towards him. I'm confused. Why have we returned here, she said. I thought we would leave. Not just yet. You see, I am Naruto Uzumaki, and I am Satoru Uzumaki as well. Don't think of it as two different consciousness. I remember every single depressing moment of Naruto Uzumaki's life. The pain that he felt, the neglect, how he was mistreated. Not physically, of course, but mentally. To the point that he started to fake everything, even his emotions. This child had so much hate. I suppose I should say I have so much hate. However, this village can be useful. There's many things here that I believe will help me on my quest. Not to mention, the third Hokage was a student of the first and second, which means that if anyone has information regarding about anything of my past, power that was stored away, I believe he would. As for you, I want you to go and fetch a few things for me. What is it, my lord? She said. In my heyday, I created many artifacts, many weapons that I imbued with my own strength and power. Many of them are stored all over the elemental nation, in secret caves and all over. I want you to return all of them to me. Come here, said Naruto. She stepped towards him and knelt. Naruto went through hand sign, a simple technique that he had created, which allowed him to share his memories. It was more difficult because of this body that he was not used to, but he was able to successfully do it, showing her all the locations that she needed to go. As she absorbed them, she got back to her feet. I will locate all of them at once. Don't you worry, said Naruto. There's a lot that I have to do here. As she nodded her head and made her way off. Once she was gone, Naruto looked at his hands. He extended his right hands as veins started to run through it. However, they started to cause him a large amount of pain. In his former body, he had shattered the boundary of limitations, allowing him to expand his physical attributes to limits that were impossible. But now, the simple exertion of doing that caused him an immense amount of pain. This body needed to become stronger. However, he was sure that reabsorbing all of the aspects of what he once was would make sure that wasn't a problem anymore. Naruto stepped towards the window and threw it open as he gazed up towards the moon, remembering the promise that he made all those Uzumakis. He hated that the clan was now left so docile, as he would have liked to get his revenge on them. However, there are still a whole lot of people that he could take his anger out on. However, his plan was still in effect. In his last moments before he was sealed away though, he realized that he needed to think bigger next time, because he had no doubt that he would be back in this world once again. And now his mind was bursting with new opportunities, new thoughts, as his gaze kept on looking at the moon, remembering the encounter that he had in the past with that woman. A smile graced his features. You must think that I've abandoned you. However, just like you, I was locked away for such a long time. But I suppose, when it comes to time, you have me beat, Naruto said, talking out to the moon, because he knew there was someone sealed inside of it. A woman. Her name was Kaguya Osusuke. Now that was a long story. The fact that he met a goddess and she was locked away. Naruto climbed through the window before jumping up on the ledge. As he landed on top of the roof and spread his arms to the world, he wanted to scream out that he was free, but he kept his mouth shut as he smiled, gazing over the hidden leaf of Konoha. I suppose it's time that we begin. The next day, Sakura and Sasuke were surprised as they saw Naruto, having recently done their mission, as they weren't going to be doing anything difficult for some time. But that was not what surprised them. It was Naruto looks. He looked different, yes. Starting from his clothing. He was wearing a blood red shirt, dark red. It was open, allowing the black shirt underneath to be visible. Long sleeve red shirt, along with black and red pants. He had on sandals on his feet. His weapon pouch was not visible to them. His headband was wrapped around his waist. He had extended the cloth. He cut his hair in a strange pattern, allowing the bangs that would have covered his face to now rest at the side of his face, the remainder of his hair blowing out. Small changes could cause such a drastic effect. He looked rather different. The clothing was a big plus in that department, given how difficult things had been. It was good that things were returning back to normal, and Sakura could make her little comments about him. Comments that he would have no problem with in the past. Stop trying to act all cool with that getup of yours, she said. She went on a rant, as things were back to normal. So, she was in her right to say what she had to say. However, the way Naruto looked at her, she did not seem to recognize. Until his hand rose and there was a sound. Sasuke was caught off guard. Yes, he was. So was Sakura as she found herself face first on the ground. Naruto had slapped her across the face, pretty hard. Her cheek was red as he stepped up towards her and grabbed her by the hair, raising her head so she would meet his gaze. "You little bitch," he said. "Who the hell do you think you're talking to?" But guys, be and subscribe right here. If you want to see next person, do like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on that bell notification to stay posted. And don't forget to share to all of your friends in your social media platform. But I'm out for now. See you guys soon. Peace.